But just to go up there and do an inspection or to go jaw-jack with somebody or use your radio. Use a voice secure rig. Talk to them. I mean.
Okay. Now, in conjunction sort of with that, being stuck places, there was a point when you got stuck in Dak To, and how did that happen and what was that?
I was up north. It was later afternoon, flying a commander, and Dak To is a provincial headquarters. That's like saying a township hall.
Mm-hmm.
And that's involving all the local people. But besides that, we have, what do you want to call them, PR people that are there that are working with the locals and stuff. Plus, you never know what's going to be there. But anyway, he had radio contact with him because I have a variety of radios in my aircraft. And the commander was using one of them and was talking to him at Dak To. Wanted to know if we couldn't land at Dak To. He wanted to talk to some people face to face. I said, okay. So it was on the way. I mean, what's the big? So I landed there. He told me he was going to be, I don't remember now, say it's an hour. So you don't keep the aircraft running. You shut it down. You tie down the rotor blades and stuff like that. I was walking away, and I'd probably got 50 feet from the aircraft when the first mortar shell landed in the ammo supply dump next door. And once that happens, it's a chain reaction. And as I ran back to my aircraft, I heard what sounded like Volkswagen doors flying overhead. And I mean, just huge pieces of metal going through the air and ground shaking, because you're talking about, well, an ammo supply dump. I mean, anything and everything you can think of. And I told you the staging field was just down the road a little bit for over the border. So there, I don't know what all was in that place, but it was going up. I untied the rotor blades and tried to start the aircraft, and it wouldn't start. Well, once you go through a startup procedure, your starter is a small motor. They don't like them build them any bigger than they have to because they're heavy. So you're supposed to let it cool off. And I tried burning it up. I made 3 or 4 attempts to start the aircraft without trying to let it cool. Wouldn't start. Wouldn't start. So I left it. Ran over to Tactical Operations Center there and down the bunker. That place cooked off till about 2 in the morning. And from the minute that supply dump was hit, there were Vietnamese, North Vietnamese again, running around inside that base with satchel charges, throwing them in various bunkers and stuff. So grabbing the Tactical Operations Center probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but I knew where that one was. Mm-hmm. And just being on the ground wasn't a good deal, because normally an explosive, like if you get a mortar coming in, it hits the ground, it detonates, it blows up. Mm-hmm. So if you're on the ground, you can be fairly close to it and be fairly safe. This stuff's going off and raining down and going everywhere. So I sat in the Tactical Operations Center with a Cocklock 45 watching the door to make sure we didn't get a satchel charge in that bunker for a good share of the evening. And then they told me, well, things calmed down. Yeah, I could still hear everything cooking off, but there was no ground activity and stuff. And they says, we'll get you a place to sleep. And so they took me out, and I think it was a hooch. I don't think it was a tent. And everything's sandbagged up about 3 feet, and the bunk was on the inside of these sandbags, and sticking in the sandbags an RPG. And it hadn't gone off. It just stuck in the sandbags. And I'm looking at that, and the bunk's on the other side. And they said something to me. I can live with it. And I slept the night with this RPG stuck in the sandbags. Next day, they brought up a maintenance crew from it's 52nd Aviation Headquarters, actually, at Camp Holloway, which is in Pleiku. And they took a look at the bird, and it had a hole in the pilot's windshield, this big around, with it. The piece of shrapnel that made it all tangled in the seat. And the aircraft's a piece of Swiss cheese. The reason it wouldn't start is there's something called an exciter box. And in the car, you have a distributor and spark plug wires. Well, a jet engine that these things have, they're set up in such a way to reduce the backblast, and that's why they have all the stators and vanes to pull the power out of it, to power the main rotor blades, but it's a jet engine nonetheless. Once they're started, you have continuous flame inside. Well, this exciter box goes, and it gives spark to the spark plug that's there that starts that fire in your engine. Piece of shrapnel right in the box. Mm-hmm. So they wired one on the cowling, or, well, what do you want to call it? It's like the hood of your car opens up to get to the engine. They wired one on there and rerun the wires so I could fly it. But now this seat's not going to be comfortable, and the windshield's got the big old hole in it, and this thing's all full of Swiss cheese, and there's holes in the rotor blades, so when it's flying, it's going. We put sandbags up on the side of the pilot. One thing you don't think about is a helicopter is basically just a box underneath the rotor blades. And if it's not balanced, if it gets off enough, you lose control because the blades only tilt so far. So the helicopter has to be balanced. And if it ain't in balance, you get up and you're just flying some way till you crash. So we had to put sandbags on the pilot's side, because I don't have enough lead in my pencil sitting on the co-pilot side to balance it. And they put it on a one-time Red X, and I got to fly it back, and that was interesting, because I walked around that aircraft and wasn't sure. I really wanted to. And the tech rep didn't want to fly with me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's getting stuck at Ben Head. That was...
or was that Duck Toe?
Duck Toe, yeah.